Oh, well, it's Alex Katz, but the birth certificate is Alexander. That's what you're asking. I was born in Brooklyn, but when I was a year and a half, they moved to Queens. And Queens was the beginning of the suburbs. And the only thing that people had in common was the price of the house. So it was a very diverse bunch of very diverse people. And there was no center to there was no mall or even church or synagogue around. I always did a lot of artwork when I was a child, but did other things. I drew all over my parents' walls, and they left it there for years. So, and I painted half the garage, and I got a prize when I was very young. They had a contest throughout the whole city, and I got a first prize when I was 7 years old, and I never could understand it because the drawing looked so primitive. But when I got very old, then I could understand it. We had paintings in the house. We had like these Russian expressionist paintings in the house, but I never liked them. There were like two kinds of painting, a regional painting and a provincial European painting. That was it when you got to art school. I wanted to be a commercial artist, and I didn't have talent for it, really. And I got into when I went into high school, and I saw these antique drawings. So what I did was I did antique drawing for 2 years, and got to be very good at it, And then I got into Cooper Union, which was very hard to get into. It was like 5%. 1,800 apply, they take 90. And I had a high mark too, which is amazing, because I come from a underprivileged school. And then I started, but the fine arts was always more interesting. But I felt you had to be a genius to be a painter. And I was no genius. I didn't have any skills at all. But I couldn't draw the way they wanted me to, which is like for 20 minutes, because the antique drawings would take 1 week. So I started to draw by myself outside of school. And if I wasn't sleeping, I was drawing. And I did that for 2 years, and I filled the whole closet up with drawings. And by that time, I learned how to draw, quick. And that was the beginning, and I found that if I apply myself with energy, I could get a lot better. And from when I entered the school to when I graduated, it was a complete transformation. But when I graduated, I was doing stylish painting. When I went there, I couldn't do anything. And so I figured if I went to be a fine artist, if I had 20 years on the planet, I could do something. I figured I was going to get much better. Well, when I got out of art school, I got a scholarship to a provincial school where they painted realistically. In the Cooper Union, it was all modern art. And it was very interesting for me, the thing of painting with the unconscious. And then at that point, I decided to become a fine artist. Jackson Pollock was really, my paintings were like that kind of painting from nature, from life, all over. The European painters I liked were Matisse and Picasso, and they sort of painted, you can't get the right word, they painted a round form with lines, and Jackson Pollock spread it out. And so after Jackson Pollock, then you could see Tintoretto. You know, it's the same sort of spreading, and Bonnard spread. And I liked Pollock and I liked Bonnard a lot. They helped me spread out. And when I grew a little later on, I liked Franz Klein and Rothko, you know, 5, 6 years later. I gravitated into a Bohemian world that was interesting. The outside world didn't matter at all. I had no interest in it, and I don't think I voted for years. I didn't bother even voting. I was strictly in this Bohemian fugitive world. The artist's social position was like a dancer, a poet, and a drug dealer. They were all about the same socially. Portrait was, it was a combination of abstract and particular forms. I felt that the two big artists, Matisse and Picasso, tended to generalize specific information, and they didn't paint really abstract. And in the late 50s, they made the flat backgrounds, which are abstract and specific information about people. And it was an interesting area, no one was there, and that was my big style period was the late 50s, and it had to do with that, exactly that. And then I got involved in large heads, and that was in the early 60s, and no one had been doing them, large faces, and you wondered whether you could make a painting like that, and you wondered whether your painting would hold up next to the older abstract expressionists. And it gave me a great deal of pleasure when I saw my red coat next to it, de Kooning, later on. My red smile, that red smile, yeah. When I was very young, the person who was older than me and took me to this high school, who was very talented, we did watercolors, and we went 20 miles to find a motif. And we brought him home and showed him to my father. And the other guy wanted to be a commercial artist, and my father said, "You're going to be a great commercial artist." And he was a great commercial artist. And he said to me, "You're hopeless, you're going to have to be a fine artist." Then he said, "Why don't you paint your own backyard?" And I always disliked my father because he was so smart. And so I wanted to paint what was in front of me. I wanted to paint people with art gestures, smoking and drinking, and people with the clothes that people wear now. I don't want to paint yesterday's clothes and yesterday's people. So I started right in the house. There's enough dreary things in the world and enough realistic things that are... The 19th century idea of realism was something depressing. It had to do with poor people in bad situations. I like if you ask me who the greatest artist was, it would be Tutmosis, who did Nefertiti. He would be my all-time, I think, the all-time best artist. And I felt that our society was rich, you know, in America, and could afford elegance. I didn't think it was that peculiar. And I was living with elegant people. I said, why not go make a beautiful line? Well, I've always liked trees, you know, and when I grew up in Queens, we were next to a woods, you know, and we played in the woods all the time. We climbed trees, but I just felt good around it. And I moved up to Maine for the summers, and that's all rural. it's wild actually. And I've always liked it. And the landscape was a way of getting away from Matisse and Picasso. They didn't do landscapes. Neither one of them went out. And they do enclosed form, and I want expanded form. So landscapes was sort of the vehicle for me to get out of Europe. I'm an image maker. I make images, you know? And I see it and I do it. And it's like that, it's intuitive. But it's an idea of images, you know? And I don't know. Maybe the landscapes are disappearing, but I think civilized places have trees. You know, so it's always a thing that people seem to like. You know, I think it's uncivilized when you take the trees away. Little houses. They're in Maine, they have a rural slum where they have little houses. So I was doing little houses in the landscape for a lot of it. I have done some city things, but not much. The idea of my work is to get into the immediate present. And you can say there's things there, maybe they're there, but that's not what I'm interested in. Not individually, you make art as part of a community. So all the people who say nice things help me. All the people who say bad things help me. And when you look at things, you think about them. And the art is continually changing, you know? And you hope that I think of my art as a part of it is in the present tense. So that has to do with your relationship to other artists in the present tense. The way of workings have changed quite a bit. When I started, it was direct and more expressionist. Now it's very artificial. I paint almost like someone doing frescoes and a Japanese calligrapher at this point. So it's changed quite a bit because I wanted to paint large paintings, large realistic paintings, and I couldn't do them direct anymore. So I started doing what you see, these little sketches, and enlarging them. And the way I paint is changed too, because it was originally a wet paint on a dry surface, and now it's wet painting on a wet surface. It's completely different, the technique. There's a difference between intimate and public spaces. I did the big faces on Times Square, you know, and it's a generalized, it's a pretty girl. It's, I don't know, 20 pretty girls. And the motion came from the Acropolis with the horses, you know. I looked at that for the idea of the motion. And it's a thing that, like I said, all people can get something out of it, you know. Well, if something works, you keep it. I have old telephones from 30 years ago. It works, I keep it. People look at the phone and say, "What are you doing with this phone?" I said, "Well, it works." And it's the same with the dealers. Everything changes, and somehow, some dealers, it seems to function, and other dealers, it's no longer interesting, and you disappear. But we live in a world where artists can deal with more than one dealer simultaneously. The galleries in New York I've changed, you know. I changed pace and I went to Gavin Brown. And it was like, it was very interesting in the beginning, and finally I felt there was not much energy coming my way. So I said goodbye, just like that. But the galleries that I've stayed with have all been, has represented me well, and they've all worked for me. And that was the big thing. It was not, it had nothing to do with sales. It had to do with how they showed the work and how they dealt with museums and things in the press.
Mm-hmm.